Hello everyone, my name is Turji Dadul and today Ugen Wangchuk and I will be presenting on the reading Media Capital or Media Deficit, which is a representation of women in leadership roles in the old and new media, and it is authored by Claire Walsh. So this paper focuses primarily on how women in leadership roles are represented in the media using a feminist critical discourse approach. There is a tendency among some feminist media analysts to homogenize all media as sexist, but contradictory tendencies are evident, especially with the rise of new media platforms. The new value of unexpectedness afford women in prominent leadership roles relatively in high media capital. And on the other hand, even ostensibly positive coverage can help to reinforce the limiting perceptions of women that circulate in the mediatized public sphere. For instance, the hybridized, gendered interactional and rhetorical styles favored by many women in public space roles have led to them being evaluated as inauthentic by mainstream media institutions. This paper will investigate these contradictory tendencies through a focus on how this case study is evidence of dominant media construction of British, Irish, and US female political leaders. This paper will conclude by considering briefly the use of Twitter, blogs, and other news media platforms by high-profile women in politics in order to bypass the persistent interpretative control exercised by some mainstream media institutions. So now, the outline of this presentation. This article talks about the role of media in describing the leaders from the perspective of gender and sexism. In the outline of the presentation, we talk about different aspects of the article by diving into different aspects of the description. We allude to a descriptive form of statement saying that media and the art of description are ruthless. Media's art of describing women leaders provides an ineffective reflection. I think this is due to the reasons of gender stereotyping, because by putting the physical appearances of women in public leadership, we say it provides a cruel gender mirror, which is indiscriminate, hurtful, and also incisive. So in the same way, the British coalition government is also from a gender lens. So now to begin our main presentation. So in this slide, we talk about the general media's way of describing women leaders by us suggesting that the media's way of description are ruthless. The article is based on a feminist critical discourse approach, in which they describe the women leaders from a feminist perspective by alluding to gender roles instead of their political and service roles. The way of media's discussion about women leaders has been very discriminatory, unethical, and also disrespectful. The media tend to describe women leaders as the media's normal habit. This style of the media is disrespectful to the political leadership. For example, if you look back on how the media described women political leaders, then the then Home Secretary Anne Whitcomb was described by the Guardians as an alien-like giant with bosom on non-existent legs. So if we analyze these statements, it can show the media's apathy and also the most disrespectful way of media reporting. Hence, media reports from how some men see women, and this has led to a dramatic democratization of the media. The writer calls it mainstream instead of normal parlance called mainstream. Here, every person has got a way to describe things. We can note that people describe things freely when a democratic culture builds the nature of freedom that is free of restraint and respect for fellow human beings. So I think this is written. I think this is when the media builds its own ego. Now to go on with the second slide, that is about the media coverage of the legacies of Hillary Clinton and Margaret Thatcher in terms of the old and the new media. So in this slide, we discuss the media coverage of the legacies of Hillary Clinton and Margaret Thatcher through the old and new media. The old media describes Hillary Clinton and Margaret Thatcher as unfeminine. This means that I think this means that the media tend to say that they are masculine. I think that's what they are trying to convey to the news readers, to the public. This was described like that since these leaders were confrontational. Maybe that's the reason that the newspapers were describing them as unfeminine. So, however, with the strict coverage by the media alluding to their gender-specific descriptions, they had to modify their characters. So in this, the media has influenced the character of the women leaders too. So here, the Margaret Thatcher was described from a feminist perspective, and it categorically provides a new way of describing a women leader. They always received media-influenced comments and descriptions. Now, my friend Ugin will continue this presentation.
Thank you, Duji. Hi, everyone. I'm Ugin Wangchuk. Now I will continue our presentation from here. In this slide, we describe the retrospective coverage of Hillary Clinton's career and legacy. Here it says that instead of Hillary Clinton being addressed as the Secretary of State, the media described her as former First Lady. This is how women leaders are profiled. Hillary Clinton was described through her hair as how British Prime Minister. Boris Johnson was described through his hair and what shampoo he was using. The media describes that her hair was strong-willed as her. If Hillary Clinton showed affection and compassion, she was described by her husband saying that she is capable of love and affection and her husband is not. John Kerry, who replaced her as Secretary of State, flattered her as big heels to fill, in which he said that he has a big role to come to her standards. In the same way as above, Margaret Thatcher, the then British Prime Minister, was described as being milk snatchers since he cancelled a milk program. She was also labelled as the most unpopular woman in Britain. In 2013, she was described as being a better politician than a wife and mother. In this, they again came up about her gender roles and not the leadership roles. Later, she was described as a bad mother to a witch. Her spray-held hair served as metonyms for her legendary control of British Prime Minister's brief. In Bhutan, once the Kunsel reported the name of a leader called Yarge has been intentionally written as Margie. This provides a very contrasting meaning. On similar lines, the British coalition government is described as exclusive or inclusive of the gender roles. However, even in the government structure, the women leaders are considered as outsiders within and they are given a different status. In the conclusion, we say that media has described women leaders as different people from the lens of gender and sex. Women leadership qualities are always described from the idea that they are less powerful, capable, or different from their appearances. Media has become a different describers and they can have no ethics, values, or standards. Media language is sexist or they describe women leaders and impose synthetic identity. New media should be able to identify sexist language and monitor and bypass these terms and gender identities. I hope to have shown that female political leaders continue to be judged according to the different and offer more taxing standards than their male peers by largely male or male-identified political commentators within the mainstream media. However, new media platforms have potential to enable feminist-identified women and feminist-identified men to monitor, contest, and bypass, at least to some extent, the interpretative control of masculinist mainstream media, promoting an alternative model of authentic leadership. Positive developments include the presence of websites of the Fawcett Society and the Center for the Advancement of Women in Politics, the latter being linked to Queen's University Belfast and offering an excellent resource for providing up-to-date statistics on the presence or otherwise of women in a range of political institutions within Northern Ireland, Britain and Britain. Cross-party challenges to sexism in both political and media institutions have been spearheaded by the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Women in Parliament. Now we have uh, 4 questions for the discussions. Number 1, do you think the media can have literally all freedoms to describe women leaders without values, ethics, and propriety? Number 2, how can democracy promote respect for other women leaders? 3, what mechanism should there be in place to promote value-based leadership, enhance the rule of law in media, and promote a sense of human dignity in women leaders? Finally, what would be the result of over-democratization of media? That's all, and thank you.